right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. The Friday before the long weekend. Everyone's got a route out of town, right? Everyone's got that one sneaky route that they know can cut off some time to get up north.
Is that what it is?
Never works that way. Well, everyone thinks they do.
Yeah. Like, do you? I don't know if you've got a place up north. I feel like everybody I know has a place up north except for me. Like,
yeah,
I don't have
either. I
don't
never
have a cabin. Yeah, I don't have a cabin. We don't have a family place up here. Steph's family, same thing. But you talk to people, and now that it's getting beautiful weather, I feel like from Thursday afternoon on all day, throughout the summer, these roads are just crazy.
It's
heading
sneaky
north,
on the
right?
Thursday. If you can get out on a Thursday, you should be okay. But even that is one of those tales where people, claim they know the perfect time. I got the perfect time slot to get out of here and avoid traffic. And generally, you still end up running into it. I find if you can wait until late Friday night, like most people don't want to be on the roads when it gets dark, that can be a sneaky move. Maybe you wait the next morning, but there's so many people that are thinking the same way. And again, I don't have a great history of this because I don't have a cottage and I rarely get up north. But if I were to go up north, it would be a late wait. Get the kids in the pajamas, leave at like 8:30. You're probably okay.
Yeah.
But it's like a sneaky parking spot in the city, right? If you feel like, you get off on like the 89 side road and then you take the 6 side road north. It's like, dude, you're still taking the same amount of time.
Everybody's got their routine.
I've
got a routine when I go downtown. I feel like I've done a pretty good job now. If I go down to a Leaf game or something, I'll drive to the airport and take that up train down.
That's the move.
That's nails. I mean,
if
you're willing to spend, I feel like parking.
If you guys think that's saving time at the train at the airport, no way, man.
Here's why, buddy.
See, I have the philosophy I got to just fight through traffic, and that train is like the idea of going to the airport to take the train. I will not ever do that. But it was gorgeous today because I had to bring my daughters down from Collingwood, and I was heading south, and I saw all.
Oh, yeah, south is no problem. South, no one's going south.
It was gorgeous. I was waving to everybody right at Bradford. Hi, because it was a log jam.
Oh, yeah? Well, see, that's the thing. Heading north, it's ugly. And for me, if I go, for example, I want to go to a Leaf game, and you want to get downtown. Now, our show, obviously, sometimes, if it's a 7:30 game, I feel like I can make it from the studio. Hayes, you're the same way. We've got your little route there to get
It's all
downtown.
About the Parkway. It's all about getting off the 401 onto the DVP. But you do that clean, you're okay.
If I want to go to a Toronto Maple Leafs game on a Saturday night, and I want to get down there and I want to get there for warm-up or whatever, I got to give myself 90 minutes. I can give myself, from the airport, that up train, that's a 20-minute clip. No matter what, there's no traffic. There's no nothing. You're right at Union Station, and you walk right into the rink. That's the way I agree. I love it.
I think it's a big upgrade. It was long overdue. I understand why it's there because of the airport. I do think people on the east end of the city get jobbed because there should be something in Scarborough that can get you right downtown in 20 minutes. Yeah. Like, that is mandatory.
Wow, politician.
I'm thinking about running. After what I saw last night, I feel like I could destroy anybody.
I think a lot of people should feel like they could do something like that.
All I could think of was you two. All I could think of is you two. If we fast forward to the show 30 years from now, you two arguing about a golf game.
That's
exactly
what I was
watching last night.
How did the golf argument start? Like, did Biden say you got a bad swing or you cheat on the golf course?
No, we have the audio. I don't know where Trump was riffing, and then he goes, "This guy challenged me to a golf game." Like, basically, like, look at this pigeon. He's got no chance. And then there was some back and forth.
It was about the physical. Are you in good physical shape? Because they were talking about their ages. They were talking about their ages. It started with Joe Biden and said, "You will be 86 when the term is done. Are you able to handle this?" And he talked about him being in good shape, blah, blah, blah. And then it went over to Trump, and Trump said, "You will be 82." And Trump said, "I'm in great shape. I just want to do club championship, not seniors, club championship. And I was and then the two of them started going back and forth. It's like, I'm a 6, I'm an 8, and Trump's laughing. I know nothing about what their handicaps are, but I would argue Trump's probably a better golfer than Biden just based on the guy does it all the time, right?
Of course he is. And he plays all the time. Exactly. Now, they both probably cheat like crazy on the course. But I had the same thought. I'm like, that would be the equivalent. If O and I had a falling out, didn't talk to each other for 30 years, and then we had a 50th anniversary show, that would be what it would be. I'd be like, wow, when we used to do the show, I was down to a 6. And he'd be like, no, you're not. You should be shooting left. And we'd be going back and forth.
I've seen your swing. That's what Trump said. There's no way you can't hit it 50 yards. I've seen your swing.
Right.
I was dying laughing.
That's our material. Like, they stole our material last night. That's basically what the two of them were doing up there. Yet that's the former president, the current president, and the future president. One of them's going to win. Let's play it. Let's just play it. This is the back and forth last night. This is the only thing that matters for us. Everything else is completely irrelevant.
Nothing else.
But golf chirps is great.
Take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's not act like children. President Trump, we're going to
Let's not act like children.
Just take.
The best comment was, I've seen your swing. I know your swing.
Right.
Yeah.
After he whispers, never. Never a 6. Never an 8. And honestly, even the chirp, like, before you lost weight, one of my moves was, I think I can beat you if you have to carry your bag. Like, Biden's using my stuff. Biden used my chirp from what I would use to you a couple of years ago, and your chirp would be, there's no way you're a 6. I've seen your swing. You should be hitting left-handed.
I know your swing.
I know your swing.
I was
Let's not be
laughing.
children here, as if he's not being
That's
childish.
the funniest part. Like,
Let's not
he's
be
the guy who actually has to be, in that particular moment, the bigger man going, let's not be children here. I'm like, you guys are on the biggest stage in the world, and you're arguing about your golf swings and your handicap.
And your handicaps. And
They are
amazing.
seeking the most powerful position in the world, and they're
planet.
chirping each other about their golf swings and handicaps. That is
so
outrageous that occurred.
Right. And, now you're seeing, like, the memes that came out of last night. That was just a dream.
That
for
is
kind of
like
stuff.
an internet, like, fair.
Yes,
it was
it's
a fair
sensation.
online.
It is. It really is. It's a fair. It's a basically a market where you just go and pick and choose whatever you want. Because if you were looking for something last night and you're creative, you found it. 100% you found it. And yeah, it's just incredible that was the back and forth when there's so many things going on
I
in
was
the country
texting
and the
you
world.
guys because I was watching it
I couldn't
live, and
believe
I
it.
was like, my God, this is – I laughed out loud like 5 times, and I don't know if I should have, but it was just like, this is nonsense. But anyways, I mean, Jays won. We got lots
Jays
going on.
were significant. The offense is alive. We'll see if they roll over tonight. The Yankees and Judge went 0 for 4 last night, so that's significant where Barrios, they flashed his stats throughout his career against Barrios, and it's like a 1,300 OPS, like multiple home runs. He just crushes Barrios, and that wasn't the case last night. And now what you got tonight is the Stroh show on the mound, where Marcus Stroman pitching for the Yankees, and I would have to believe the first time maybe in sports history where an opponent is going to have a tattoo of the city landscape on their body while they're trying to punch you out. Like weird. He's Mr. Toronto. He's got all the Toronto tats and everything, and yet he's representing clearly the Yankees tonight. And the Yankees are looking for a big, big bounce back because they got torched by the Mets over the weekend or earlier this week prior to coming up. And obviously it didn't go well for the Yankees last night, but it benefited the Jays. And the Jays' bats have been coming alive a little bit. George Springer, again, shout out to George. He had a good night. Vladdy had a good night last night. So, yeah, the Jays start that series in style last night. Kikuchi on the mound tonight against Stroman. We'll tee that up throughout the afternoon. And we got a couple of things to get into today. Mike Johnson will join us. CJ will join us. Dear Hazy be at 6:30. I've got a Labor Day confirm or deny. We're going to look ahead to Labor Day and we'll confirm or deny some of these topics and whether or not we're going to be talking about them. But the draft is tonight in the NHL. And I guess there's action. There's stuff going on right now. And, a number of things are being revealed in terms of players that are going to get to the market, right? Like, it looks like Stamkos is getting there. Like, it looks like Tampa is trying to offer him a long-term deal at really short money, and he's not willing to accept it. He may. Maybe they call each other's bluff. Maybe they meet in the middle. Maybe it doesn't get to noon on Monday, but it looks like it's trending in that direction. Zadorov's going to get there. He's not going to return to Vancouver. I'm not surprised. Vancouver's been spending money on other players, including Tyler Myers and Dakota Joshua yesterday.
I liked Alvin's comments, though. He goes, I don't want to overpay. Like he basically said, like, we like the player, but he's overvaluing himself because he had a good playoff. Mm-hmm. Like that was paraphrasing, but he was flat out saying, we like the player, to like to keep him, but not at that price point because he's overvaluing of what he believes he is. Like that, I read those comments. I was like, he's bang on. You have to make a tough business decision because they're in the market for Gensel. They're in the market for other top players too. You can't waste a bunch of money on a 4-5, a 5-6 type of thing. So
great comments, just being real. Like that's it.
I agree. Yeah, I loved him.
Yeah. Listen, that's one team. And Zadorov, if he's simply looking for money, someone might give it to him, right? We always know how it works. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. All you need is one team. You don't need 32.
Yep.
You don't need everyone to agree with your value. You need one team to look at you and say, I'm in on that. And one name that has popped up today, I saw Craig talking about it last night. Dregs has been tweeting about it. The reporters are on it, that maybe Nazem Kadri's a guy that the Flames could make available. And Naz has still got 5 years left on his deal. He had 75 points this year, 56 his first year there, 87 a few years ago when he won the Cup in Colorado. Now 5 years at $7 million, I believe it is. It's a pretty big ticket.
Can they chew? Are they chewing on money?
Well, I'm sure they don't want to. I mean, it would. I'm guessing it would depend on what the return is.
Yeah, the offer, right?
But Naz is an intriguing piece. Now he's not a young guy. He's not young anymore. Naz is 33. He'll be 34 when the puck drops in the fall. Like 34 with 5 years left at $7 million. There's a gamble there, but he's a really good player. And Craig made the case last night. He thinks the Leafs should be all in on him. Like, forget Bertuzzi, forget Domi. Get back into business with Nazem Kadri.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
I love Naz.
Okay, so
I love him as a player.
Okay, so where are you at?
But there's a but there. What's the but?
Yeah, what's your conditions?
The but is
his age and the money.
Well, yes, they're just getting out from under the Tavares deal. We know where John is now. John, if he was at $7 million, it'd be a totally different story. To be fair to Tavares, but Tavares, I believe, is the same age as Nazem Kadri. Maybe he's a year younger. And it's, John's going to come off this year, and then you're going to tag on 4 more years at $7 million of Nazem at the same age. I just feel like there's a real fork in the road here with the Leafs, in terms of what I think they need youth. I think they need speed. I think they need like a next wave, and this would be the opposite way. If you're bringing in a 34-year-old, if you're going to sign a 34, 35-year-old Chris Tanev,
right?
Like that's basically you're committing to older players, and you can get old and you can get slow quickly. That would be my concern, that you're going to get out from the Tavares money. Who knows what happens with Marner, but I don't think of them as a fast team to begin with. Nazem is not a fast player. I love Nazem Kadri. And the idea of him returning home and being a Leaf again, he loved being a Leaf. He never wanted to leave. I think it would be an incredible story. It would be one that I would find thoroughly entertaining. It would be a lot of fun. And he'd be an impact player here. Like, don't get me wrong. He would be impactful for a couple of years anyway, no question. But 5 years is a lot for someone that'll be 34 when it kind of feels like they're an older, slower team that still couldn't get over the top. I think there's a gamble there. The idea of transitioning from Tavares to Nazem Kadri.
But you can't deny that it would be intriguing to just explore the possibility.
Well,
because you talk about the kind of guy they need and what works and how he never should have left, or I don't believe he should have left. I remember Bob McKenzie sitting beside him saying, after the suspension in Boston, like that's probably the end of the line. And I was thinking, he obviously knows something that I don't, because how the hell could it be the end of the line? And it was just, I understand that the 2 suspensions in a row were insane. And then the first year in Colorado, he got suspended even worse again.
Did he get an 8-gamer?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
came
he
across
clocked
the middle.
somebody and just
elbow, I think.
Yeah, so everybody
elbow,
in
Jimmy
Toronto was
Snuka.
like, that's exactly why we didn't bring him. That's why we did it. Yeah. And then he won the Stanley Cup. So there's just a lot of intriguing angles to that for sure.
Well, and their ages, they're a month apart, their birthdays.
Exactly.
So they're the same age. So you'll be 34 when the puck drops. You're right. Like, Hayes, I didn't think about it this way. You're right. Like, the Leafs aren't known as a really fast team.
No.
Like, they're, skilled, all of that. But, like, speed isn't – when you look at it, team speed, they're not burners. They're –
but when you look at Reinhart and Verhaeghe and Sam Bennett, do you think of them as they play fast. Their team structure is fast, but are they burners?
No, you're right. It's a good point. I think they're good skaters, they're strong skaters, but I don't think they're like Florida wasn't known as a lightning speed. Like Edmonton was, not just because of McDavid. They had McLeod. Like they had some guys who could really skate. Fogel's a really good skater. All of that. But this is. I don't know if you're looking. Are you going to build the Florida model? I don't know. Like I don't think that's a unique situation. Like I think if it's a copycat league, then what is Florida's model? They didn't spend as much up front, that type of stuff. Like I think speed is the game still, and bringing a guy like Nazem, who's a good skater but he's not a burner. Marner's a good skater, he's not a burner. Nylander's a strong skater, fast. Like same thing with Matthews. They're all very strong skaters and can skate fast, but they're not known as elite burners. So
right.
That might be something that 5 years, 2 at 7
that's
is rich.
That's the problem. Like and again, you look at Florida, and I think that's a good comparison. Sam
is.
Bennett and Nas, but Bennett's 28. Kadri will be 34. Reinhardt's 28. Verhaeghe's 26 or 27. Like that's the thing. Those guys are still in their primes, and I think there's still a lot left in the tank for Kadri. He had a really good year last year, and I think he's a gamer. I love him. I love him as a player. I was the president of the Nazem Kadri fan base.
Yeah, you were.
8 years ago. I love the guy. I love the way he plays. I'd love to see him back. It just, again, with the Leafs, it always comes back to, like, where are you going to spend that money?
Yeah.
If you're going to build your defense up and you're going to bring in, Kadri and that kind of money, where Tavares isn't going anywhere, if Marner's not going anywhere, it gets tight pretty quickly. And it sounds like, on the other guys, Bertuzzi and Domi, like they both really want to return. And there's interest there for the Leafs, and the Leafs are going to see what else they can do before they maybe circle back. But let's say they bring both Bertuzzi and Domi back, and Marner returns. How is this team going to feel different for you, other than Berube? Like it's a big hypothetical because maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe these guys don't return.
It's not different. It's the coach. And
that's probably it, though.
That's right. Yeah, and hopefully they can feel different, and they look different, and they play different, which is most important. Their whole approach of NHL hockey and what it takes to win, which hasn't changed over the last 8 years with the whole group. That's the only thing you can hope to change, because the personnel would be the same, Brian. Well, and that's not an opinion or a hot take. That's factual.
Right.
You're right. The only thing that I would say would be different if Treliving goes and gets 2 or 3 D. Now all of a sudden your D looks really different. TJ Brody's gone. If you go and add a top 2 or a top 4, and then another like number 5, like if you add 2 or 3 guys on the back end, now all of a sudden you're going, okay, that team up front kind of looks similar, but the D is revamped, and that's maybe what the Achilles heel and everyone talked about for many years is that D's not an NHL D, or it's not good enough to be in the finals or deep into the playoffs. Maybe that's the thought process.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, that, again, though, would not really suggest a ton of change. Like, that's just natural year over year. There's turnover, right? Guys are up. They come, they go. And I'm not saying that would be a bad move, or would make them a worse team. It wouldn't. Let's say you sign Tanev and Roy or something. Those are 2 good defensemen. It's going to cost you some money. But you fit them in. That's pretty good. You pair them with McCabe and Riley. There's your top 4. You figure out what you're doing on the third pairing. You're in a pretty good standing on that position. But I don't know. It's this is what happens every offseason. Generally, surprises happen. I think the Leafs will sign guys that we're not thinking of right now. Like, that happens every single year, where you prepare for it because you hear news of their pending UFAs, other guys they're in on, and then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, Bertuzzi signed. I didn't see that coming last year.
Right.
You know, Domi Ryan Reeves came out of nowhere, although it started to build up as we got closer to July 1st. But a week out, no one was talking about him as an option.
Right.
So I'm sure I know they're in on a number of things that we're not aware of, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got in on that and made it feel a little bit different. But Bertuzzi and Domi are good players. They fit in pretty well. You appreciate the fact that by all accounts they want to come back and they're willing to work that out. So I think there's something to that. But I'm curious how people are going to react. Not that that's the reason you do anything. Shanahan and Tree Living have to put their best team forward. That's their job. Try to build a winner. Try to go out and compete and contend. But it did seem like at the end of the year, things have to change around here. A lot of work to do, and we'll see what that actually looks like.
Well, what is your opinion of that? If it's literally the same group coming back and they've added Tanev and Player X,
Player X, and Berube, then they're a playoff team again, and maybe they win a round.
Roll the dice.
Yeah, like that's probably what it is, and maybe that's the only thing that's really reasonable. Like maybe it's just not reasonable to expect like drastic, massive change in one offseason in the NHL with a tough cap, a hard cap, not a ton of flexibility. Maybe that's just reasonable.
And in fairness, when they said we got to make changes, we've seen some tendencies. We've seen enough over the years. With that comment comes the caveat of there's only so much we can do because our hands are basically tied. We'd like to do things, but we don't have the final say. So that's what comes with that comment.
Well,
that's not an excuse for the organization. That's also just factual, where it's like we'd like to see some changes and do some things, but ultimately there's only so much we can do when they hold the hammer. So that's on us, and that's where we're at, and that's what we're left with.
It almost might be bridge work then, as to you've got Tavares' $11 million coming off the books, and you'll have a decision with Mitch Marner, good, bad, or indifferent, a year from now or less. Obviously.
Or less, yeah. Because now there's everyone's buzzing about an extension. Who knows? I mean, with Marner, what the hell do we know until we get to July 1st? Nothing's going to happen. I don't think, tonight or over the weekend. We might get some news come early next week. But even at the award show last night, like Matthews is there. He's been being asked about Marner. And, he said exactly what you would expect him to say. Loves the guy, teammate, great friend. Of course he's going to say that. And we asked that question yesterday, or you brought that up, Noodles, like where Matthews might come into play on it. I don't know what kind of impact that's going to have, but we'll find out leading into the draft tonight. So the Leafs are picking tonight. You've got Macklin Celebrini, who's going to go first overall to San Jose, and then we'll see where it goes. Mike Johnson coming up, Chris Johnston coming up, Dear Hazy B. Jay's back in action tonight. We've got to confirm or deny that we're going to look ahead to Labor Day and ask certain things. Are we going to be talking about these things on Labor Day? All right, it's a little 2-month projection type thing. Okay, that's our plan today.
Hazy B, can I give a shout-out to somebody before we go to break?
Yes, please do. Absolutely.
I had a bracelet that I've had for a long time, and I lost it on the golf course. And I sent the superintendent, who's a great guy, Rob Ackerman, a couple days ago. I said, very unlikely, Rob, but my bracelet's out there somewhere because it just fell off my arm. He goes, don't have it. Today he sent a message. Chris Sonardo member found it in the rough on 16 and returned it.
Wow.
The likelihood of that, that's a big yard out there.
And that's a par 5, right? The big par 5 up the hill?
Yeah. And
that's
it's
a tough one.
For that person to walk right over that specific area, it could have gone 10 years just.
Well,
to say nothing of the lawnmower just blowing right through it.
Exactly, and just shattering it into 7 million pieces.
You're right.
And I don't know about you guys, but I never get anything back if I lose it. Thank you, Chris.
Shout out to Chris.
We love you, Chris.
That's great. All right, there we go. We got the bracelet back. We're all good. Mike Johnson, Chris Johnston, Dear Hazy B still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We saw the first 6 players selected for the 4 teams for the Four Nations Cup. Big news.
Hammer out some names, Hazy.
Thought that was weird, though. Just announce 6
What did
names.
you find weird about it?
It's just like, I don't know. Here's the 6 guys. Like,
They're just trying to drum up interest and keep it in the back of everyone's mind.
I know. It's just like, I don't know. What if like Brad Marchand has a terrible start to the season?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what does that mean? Like still on the team?
He's
like,
on the team. Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what if a guy got picked and he's just brutal, bad attitude, everything?
Yeah, like I don't know. I thought about it. Like everybody on those lists, absolutely deserves to be there. They're all legends. Most of them are future Hall of Famers at some point. But it's just like I don't know. I just thought it was weird to announce the top 6, but hey, have at it. And it was good. There was some great
Well,
players
there's obvious guys. I guess what I'm a little bit surprised by is that they would announce it when everything else is going on in the hockey world. Like this might get lost in the shuffle, but they also might be realizing we better do it now because if you do it in 2 weeks, no one's going to pay attention.
Yeah.
But you would think maybe they'd wait until the beginning of training camps. Like,
September.
Hey, hockey's back. And on top of that, let's not forget, everybody, I hope you had a great summer, but Four Nations Cup, here's our 6-pack. But as for Canada, they chose or they selected or announced Cale Makar, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Connor McDavid, Braden Point. Those are their first 6.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any surprises there. Like, Marchand, I understand how he's older. He's not a young guy, but he's going to be on the team. Yeah. Like they have respect for him, obviously, because of who he is, how he plays. The tournament's going to be in Boston. That might factor in. I don't know, but it is older guys like him and Sid are not young players. Like they're into their mid to late 30s, and they're both on the Canadian team. But Makar, McKinnon, McDavid, Point, those are locks. Like
for sure.
Points undervalued, and I'm not sure people like he had those great runs during the COVID bubble, and people were distracted. I don't know what the ratings were and all that, but this guy is so good. He's such a beast. He's such a gamer. Yes. Like I have no issue with him. I don't know who you would replace him with either. But
I'm so glad that he got the recognition of like you're on the team, and I'm sure I don't even think Coop needed to be a factor in that, where. Like he could tell everyone this guy is a gamer and he's one of the best players I've ever coached. They would be like, yeah, we know. Mm-hmm. We know. I don't think there was any lobbying for that at all whatsoever.
No, you're right about that. What I found interesting was there was only one goalie picked between the 4 teams, and that was UC Saros.
Saros, yeah.
For Finland. And that means the Americans are not picking, even though Hellebuck won the Vezina last night. Like you win the Vezina and you're maybe the defined truly best goalie in the world, real close to it, right? He's definitely a top 3, like undisputed top 3 goalie in the world.
Yeah.
And yet Hellebuck didn't crack the top 6 for the U.S., but they went with Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk.
They went with Matthew and not Brady?
Yeah. Well, you can only get 6.
I thought
Brady's not in the top 6. I don't think he's not
going to be on the. He's going to be on the team,
but I think Matthews.
So will Jack Hughes, but he wasn't in there.
Yeah,
in the top 6.
I thought you could have pulled Eichel and put Hellebuck in there.
That's what I'm saying. Like Hellebuck can't squeeze in. You're telling me he's not on the team?
This guy's literally on the stage last night, waving to people, picking up the Vezinas. Like can't crack the top 6.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? The USA team is deep anyways. Like that's good. That's a deep.
But I always wonder, Noodles, like if Hellebuck, like does this stuff, which ultimately doesn't mean anything, like does it like chap anybody's ass? Like is Hellebuck picking out the phone saying, I'll be starting on game 1 of the Four Nations Cup. I hope you guys, I don't know. I always wonder because we live in a world where everything hurts everybody's feelings and guys take offense to everything.
Okay. I mean, we got the 4 teams. Is there anybody off the top of your head, Brian, when you looked at him and go, surprised that guy didn't get named?
I don't think so. I mean, Sweden, what's interesting is Gustav Forsling was announced as one of the 6. Great. Cup is unreal. But that was not a name that was on the radar like a year ago.
No.
Right? Like Gustav Forsling was not a guy when you thought of Sweden. Like I found it interesting, Erik Karlsson made it right off the bat, even though he's still a great player, 100 points a couple of years ago. But
that's a legacy pick where it's like
that's probably a legacy pick. Yeah, it's probably a legacy pick.
And you're right. He didn't have a great year. He's just one of those guys that's going to be on the team.
What Swedish
I don't
player
know who would bump him.
I'd
have to think longer on that. I mean, maybe there's a Swedish goalie that possibly could. I don't know. I don't have that answer for you. I don't know who definitively in Sweden should be ahead of them. But there were a couple Leafs with obviously Matthews for the U.S. and William Nylander for Sweden. Yeah. So there you go. William Nylander, who was also a lock. Like we knew he was going. I can't think of anyone that was obvious that maybe should have been there. But
no, I mean, there's guys that you could go, like you could add in. Like that USA team is locked. They had 2D, right? Adam Fox and Quinn Hughes, who took.
They have three. That Charlie McAvoy, too.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Charlie McAvoy. That's right. So it's Matthews, Tkachuk, Eichel, and then 3D. Not one. Like you couldn't pull Charlie McAvoy off and put in Hellebuck.
Exactly. Like McAvoy's a great player. And, of course, he's on the team. But really, like, man, that's your third defenseman probably based on these, Fox and Hughes. But, yeah, there you go. Those six are out. What will be the question mark, and it always is with all these teams, is who is the one that we're not thinking of that ends up making it in February, right? Like who's completely off the radar right now for any of these teams who shows up and just has an unbelievable season, probably young player kind of off the radar, that forces their way onto the team, because that happens, and it certainly will happen by 2026. Like maybe not enough time for someone to really steal the show between now and February, but like a year and a half from now, there will be multiple players that we're not even talking about or thinking about that will be on the team.
Yeah,
on all four of these teams are going to have additions that are nowhere close to the radar right now.
Maybe a guy like, again, I'm just thinking outside the box, like a Matty Bernier in Seattle. Like all of a sudden, maybe this guy pushes through as a really top-tier player in the next 2 years. Like his rookie year is really good. Like
he was great. He really had a down year this year, though. He struggled.
Yeah, they did overall. But maybe somebody that we're not thinking, but all of a sudden pushes through, and you're like, man, that guy's got to be there. And
maybe Celebrini. Who knows? It's doubtful, but maybe he's unreal as a rookie. And his second year, he looks like he's ready to pounce. I don't know. Anything's possible. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. We'll come back and we'll begin this confirm or deny looking ahead to Labor Day. All right, we've got a number of things. We're going to project into the future here, and we're going to
So this is like a possibility confirm or deny. At this point, do you see this?
Do you think on Labor Day we will be confirming this or denying this type of scenario, okay? So it's a little bit of projection, a little bit of confirm or deny, all right? So we'll get to that. We got Johnny coming up, Chris Johnston, Dear Hazy B, Jays in action tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. So Jays Yankees tonight. Your Shaggy's in town.
What?
I don't have. I think the singer Shaggy. Like it wasn't me. Yeah,
I like that song.
Yeah, he had some good tracks, but that was like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
What is he like? Is he performing or something?
I'm trying to get the read on this. I saw Keegan tweet this out. I really don't know what the connection is to the Blue Jays, Yankees Friday night. It's summer. It's Canada Day weekend. Why is Shaggy at the Dome? I don't have that answer for you. But it sounds like he's going to be in town. So there you go. Shout out to Shaggy.
Yeah.
And maybe we can play some Shaggy. I guess we should probably mix that in the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, it wasn't me. That's his only song, really.
No, he had other ones. He had that Angel song.
He didn't.
Yeah, he did. He had a few bangers, man. He was pretty big. Like Shaggy had some big. There was another song he had with Janet Jackson. There was a great song. It was a big hit in the late 90s.
Really?
That was my wheelhouse, man. That's you'd go to like dances and stuff.
You're at the club, or you'd be at like a bar. You're probably 18 or 19 at the bar. And
Tonic,
Shaggy
like I said,
on.
getting choked out because I had my hat on.
That's right. You got choked out at a bar.
For wearing a hat. Like not being intoxicated, not being underage, not talking smack to somebody.
Well,
wearing a hat, I have to choke you out.
Like as if at that time Tonic was such an uppity-up club where you couldn't wear a hat.
Exactly. Like if I was in there, that meant it was $2 drinks. It was not some great place. I can guarantee you.
Love
it. You're right. Like really, the hat is what's going to throw people off.
Yeah.
Like DiCaprio's going to walk in here and say, "Oh, this guy's got a hat on. I have to leave and go somewhere else."
Yeah, ridiculous.
I don't think so. All right, Canada Day weekend. Big weekend up here, as we know. And then there's the civic holiday early August, and then we get to Labor Day, and it's going to fly, right? That's 9 weeks away. Summer's here, July and August. Okay, so I figured I'd put together some things, some statements on Labor Day. Let's pretend these statements are being made on Labor Day.
Yeah.
And you guys can confirm or deny, we all will, whether or not that's actually going to happen. All right, whether or not we think this is actually going to be the case.
Labor Day predictions.
Labor Day predictions. Here we go. First one. Will we be talking about how Mitch Marner is going to fit into Craig Berube's system on Labor Day?
I'm confirming this. Yeah, I'm gonna confirm this because you can do whatever you want, but he holds the cards where he can say that's actually not happening. So if what he says is true, where he wants to play out his contract as a Toronto Maple Leaf, then that will be factual. I am confirming this.
Okay.
Yeah, so am I, just based on the lack of knowledge that we have. Because to me, if they were moving him and he wanted out or some form of that, to me there would be more noise about it. I think the lack of noise, the lack of everything. Austin Matthews doing, I wouldn't say damage control, but he knew he had to talk about it. Like it's. I think they're just telling everybody they're bringing the band back again. They got a new coach. They're going to probably add to the D, and let's see what happens. And in a year, they can have roster turnover on the 9th year that they've gone through it. That's
exactly. Let's do it for an 8th time or a 9th time, and then we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm confirming it too. I think that's actually a good point you make, Noodles. Like the noise. Yes, there's noise in terms of conjecture, in terms of people having an opinion on what they want to have happen here or what they want to see happen, but there isn't noise on Marner and his camp saying I want out of here, because that would be out by now. He would know that has to happen by now. Like you can't come to the Leafs on August 15th and say actually I've changed my mind, I want out. Like that's not going to work. So if the Marner camp was thinking I want a change of scenery, I think we would know by now. The draft is tonight. July 1st is in 3 days. We would know by now. And conversely, if the Leafs were really pushing, that means calling teams around the league. Someone would have leaked that.
Exactly.
Saying the Leafs are calling everybody, dying to find something here. That hasn't happened by all accounts. I think the fact that it's quiet means it's a 3-pack of confirms around the table.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe if you're going to go that far, it's possible we're talking about his contract and what that's going to look like a year from now, kicking in at 12.5.
Yeah, and I'll say it one last time before we get to the next one. Mitch Marner is a fantastic player. He puts up points, he gets assists, but it's not him that people are talking about. It's the idea of this core group of players going at this again.
Exactly.
Because we've seen what they accomplish, and the answer is 0. It's not Mitch. It's not Mitch.
All of them
together.
Play.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's it. And the money being allocated the way it's been allocated, it just hasn't,
all of it
hasn't worked.
But it's not Mitch. Right. He's one of the best players in the world.
Yep.
So go ahead.
And he'll be on Canada. He wasn't in the 6 named today. I don't think that's a surprise. But Mitch Marner's going to be on that Canadian team for the Four Nations face-off, for the Olympic team, and he'll probably play a prominent role in that. All right, looking ahead to Labor Day, will we be talking about how Steven Stamkos looks in his new uniform?
Deny. I don't think that. I think they might be playing poker right now. I don't know which side is doing what as far as bluffs, but I just don't see it happening because he's done this before. It was the Toronto Maple Leafs. He sat down with executives, went through the whole nonsense, and then he just said, I'm going to be a Tampa Bay Lightning. I think it happens again.
I agree with you, but I think this time he's not the belle of the ball. Gino's not in the parking lot out in Mississauga at Newport Sports, and like that. Isn't that what it was last time?
That was for Brad Richards.
But
Brad
it was
Richards.
There was also a Steven Stamkos.
There could have been,
watch and all of that. He was the belle of the ball. Let's be honest, that guy is a stud of a player, and to me, this one just looks or smells a little bit different. And you're right; they might be at a standoff, but the fact that it hasn't gotten done. He might get floored by a team, and it's not going to be Utah that offers him 7 years at 5, and just because he wants extra money.
Maybe the Red Hots, the Red Wings.
Well, that's where I'm kind of. That's kind of what I was thinking. Again, I'm not going to But it just, if he's got a relationship, which he does, with Steve Yzerman, and Yzerman seems to be dumping some money, I wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden, if he is going to change teams, it'll be somewhere where he might have some familiarity with either a manager or some of the top players or something like that.
I just don't see it happening.
Al's brother off the top
rope. I still believe, I want to say, deny, because I think he is going to stay in Tampa.
Of course he is.
This is the year. Like, I've just got a weird feeling about it. I don't know.
You keep saying that, and I hope you're right, Noodles, but nothing's happened so far. That, like, Andrew Mangiapane being traded, I don't think that classifies.
Who saw that coming? Like, that came out of left field.
Not bad. Good for Washington. They got
what do you mean nothing's happened so far? The guy can't sign until Monday. What did you want him to sign before everything?
No, I'm just saying it's always like, big deal. What big trade? Like, we had the goalie trades. Those were
good, Dave.
Great.
Good,
you're just talking about like the big idea. Like, I agree. Nothing. None of that. None of that's happening.
About it forever, and we're all like, nah, he'll just be back. It's like, all right.
I know.
Nothing's gonna happen here.
I didn't see the Mangiapane though. Like that leads me to believe that Calgary's open for business. So that's what started the Nazem Kadri. It's like, okay, well, if Mangiapane, who's younger and has some upside there, okay, now maybe Calgary's open for business. Now
shouldn't they be tanking in Calgary? Like, what are they thinking they're accomplishing with a retool?
Dude, tanking, what are you – they are scorching the earth. They traded their goalie. They traded Mangiapane. Everything's gone.
Okay, so then they are. Then what are they, the next San Jose? Like, I'm talking like tanking scorched earth is you're awful for 5 or 6 years.
Well, what do you think they're going to be great next year?
I think they should. I think they need to embrace it. I think they're screwed with Huberdeau. Like, they're screwed. They're stuck with him for a long time.
Yeah,
and it's a mess.
Deal's not.
They are Peter Jacobson, and Huberdeau is the guy running naked at the British Open. And they're chewing on that one.
Yeah, that one you're stuck with. But then you might as well move off Nazem. But then what do you do with Weegar? What do you do with Blake Coleman? These are good players.
I think their team is too good to go scorched earth. If there's too many good players there, that's the problem. If you went scorched earth, you'd have to move 7 or 8 guys. Because you just mentioned Rasmus Anderson's a really good player. Mackenzie Weegar just signed an extension. He's a really good defenseman. I think didn't he have the most goals in the league last year?
Yeah, he was great last year.
I mean, Kadri is a good. Like, they've got too many of them to go scorch earth. So I think what you do is you sell off some of them, and you infuse young guys. You continue to scorched earth as you go along. I don't think it's 1 year you scorch earth. I think it's a process. Mm-hmm. Like the other thing too is they're looking up the road and going, that team just went to the finals. Like, how far away are you in certain situations? Like, Calgary's not going anywhere until McDavid's out of Edmonton, really, or something changes there. Or, they switch things. So to me, it's a
if that's the case,
situation.
That is a daunting reality.
Well, think about it.
I hear you, but McDavid, 2 years ago, McDavid was there, and Calgary won the division. It was, I think, top seed in the East.
But now that Edmonton's turned the corner is a pretty damn good team.
Of course they have.
A couple years
and
ago,
a lot of it was Tkachuk left and Gaudreau left, and Sutter was not there anymore. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if that's the reality, we can't compete with them, which I don't disagree. They can't right now. Then you might as well do everything you can short of Huberdeau because you can't, and just bottom out and be horrible and build up the system. And I actually think you look back on the deals that they made, trading Lindholm, trading Zadorov, like, that was the start of it, really. And they brought in a lot of picks and prospects. They got a hit. You build up your farm system. That's the way out.
Keep in mind, they do have to have some players there next year.
Well, you got to hit a floor. Like, you got to spend money.
And the other thing, too, is Vancouver's not going anywhere either.
Right.
That's
Vegas isn't either within your division.
I think Vegas is going to take a step back.
Oh, I disagree completely.
That D is getting older. You hear rumblings that Pietrangelo might be available. I'm telling you guys, that goaltending tandem is just, I'm telling you, Marchessault, potential free agent.
He's probably going to leave. But you got a full year of Hurdle. You got a full year of Hanifin now.
Yeah, but Mark Stone, is he going to play, or is he just going to show up in the playoffs?
He might. I mean, they won a cup when he did that 2 years ago.
I think that team is ready for a little bit of a step back.
Interesting.
Personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate that thought. I am the complete other end of the spectrum because of the way they operate.
Right.
I just think that owner and that management staff, they won't allow for it.
Well, you're right, because you know what? Let's judge them in September when their body of work is done in the offseason.
Right.
Probably,
and what they'll do is they'll be like, all right, we'll trade Pietrangelo, and then it's like, we're going to go get these two guys, and we're better now. Because they'll sign guys, they'll trade for guys, they're hyperactive. Their goaltending scares you, but Hill, when he was healthy this year, put up decent numbers to start the year.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do with Thompson or whatever, but you got Hertl there, you got Hannafin there. If you keep Theodore, if you keep Pietrangelo, that's still a really good top three.
Yeah.
Like, you got Hag, you got White Cloud. Like, they're still, I don't know, they're pretty good. All right, let's see. Let's get into it. We'll see.
I
what
could
Johnny
do this
has to
all
say.
show.
I love that stuff. I love looking at teams. The problem is we're not looking at the finished product. It's not even July 1st yet.
That applies to everything. I mean, we know, like, different ends of the spectrum. San Jose's not going to be that good.
Right.
And, Florida, Edmonton, whatever, they're going to be great. Just how good are you going to be? What are the teams in the middle? Which one's going up? Which one's going down?
Right.
More on that with Johnny. We'll continue this confirm or deny looking ahead to Labor Day, possible statements being made and discussions, as of Labor Day, and whether or not we see them come to fruition. So we'll get to that as well. Chris Johnston, Dear Hazy B. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.